This is Foodie Call on the G1 podcast.
What is up, everybody? We are back. This is GP here.
James.
Thomas.
Chuck.
And we are, of course, Foodie Call on the G1 podcast. Back at long last. First of all, I'd like to apologize for the huge delay between podcasts. The last one was Sriracha Sisters, released back in October. The reason being that I was transitioning jobs and it was taking a long time to just kind of get things in order. We couldn't arrange schedules. My day job was still occupies about 11 hours of my day, but this is the holiday break, so we made sure to get something out. And now we are doing our year-end retrospective. So that's where we're going to pick it up. Hopefully we'll be able to get more regular releases out. It always helps if you have something that you want us to talk about or just touch upon. So you can always leave that on our Facebook page, or a lot of you just know us personally, which is great. And you just send us a text message or whatever saying, hey, why didn't you guys talk about this?
Just holler at us. Just be like, yo, guys, we need you to comment and talk about this. Yappity yap about this.
Exactly, right. And actually some of those topics we're going to be getting to today, our year-end retrospective. So we are in the closing hours and days of 2016. Looking forward to 2017. Also going to be talking about what we want to see food become in Seoul in 2017. What's up with that exasperated sigh, Charles?
You call me by my given name?
He doesn't like that.
It's getting real now. No, only my high school friends call me Charles now. My mom calls me Chuck, so now it's weird. Like,
okay, Chuck.
Yes.
What's up with the sigh?
I don't know, because 2016 was kind of a crap year overall. Whether you're talking about musicians or things that like it's just a lot of things were ending. So you're like, stop with it. It's too much.
Yeah, I feel like, especially in terms of politics, we're not. That's where I'm gonna leave it at. Is that was very difficult for a lot of people. 2016 was the start of this podcast, and so when we started, I believe we didn't all actually sit together until we did the first recording. Right? We all just kind of were like messaging and like agreeing. All right, we're gonna meet at this day and this time. That's what happened, right?
Yeah,
probably. Yeah.
What do you guys think it was gonna be when we first started? Because that was back in April, I believe.
Pretty sure that's how booty calls start too, right? Just a lot of texts back and forth, and we just kind of got together.
Is that how they start for you?
I mean,
because usually they start with an actual call, right? I'm just saying.
Or a text.
Yeah.
Or a text. Get into the new, this is modern times, sir. Most people just send a text. It's kind of intrusive to call sometimes.
But I mean, you're not exactly willing. If it's a booty call, you're not going to play the long game and be patient. Anyway, we're talking about food, all right? I started this because I thought it would be something interesting to do, and it has been, and also very sustainable. Much more sustainable than what I was doing at the time, documentaries, and it has been more sustainable. And it's due to my own lack of availability that it hasn't been more regular. And I'm glad to see that people have responded quite positively. I know that a few people have actually approached James in person and be like, hey, you're James Yu.
Man, it wasn't anything nearly like that, though.
I disagree completely, because I've actually had several people that I know approach me and say, hey, you're on that podcast with James Yu. And these were women.
What?
And for me, it's kind of like, I'm like, yeah, I'm on the podcast too. Why are you not excited about me? They're like, do you know James Yu? I'm like, of course I know James Yu.
You're the sideshow.
Yeah.
The sidekick.
And everybody, they have this thing where they would always mention that, like James doesn't talk as much. We'd like to hear James Yu a little more. It's like this fan base of women that says, we want more James. And I'm like, he was like the cowbell in this equation. And I'm just like, are you serious? You want more?
You want to hear the cowbell?
I would agree with that, actually. Every time I hear someone say, we want to hear James speak more, it's always been a woman. And you know what? Even, I'm just going to lay it out there. When I'm editing this podcast, when James speaks, it is by far the most peaceful time during the recording and producing process for me. When I speak, I just can't wait for it to be over. And when Thomas speaks, I need to turn up the volume. When Chuck speaks, actually pretty neutral. But when James speaks, I'm like, okay, I could do this for a few hours.
I got the worst. Like, being neutral is like being neutered. You're like,
No,
you don't
it's
count.
not like being neutered.
It is. It's like you don't matter. Either you want to like.
It means you
Are
blend.
you still talking?
It means you're low maintenance. That's a
you
good
wanna,
thing.
You want to evoke emotion. You want to evoke, I don't know, a response. No.
Okay, so now that we have evoked several responses from people who listen to us, and we're very grateful, where do you want to take this in 2017? I'd like to just get that off of our chest. I would like to I would like to beat around the bush less. I don't feel like we do, but I really want to get in there and be more concise. I want to be more surgical with the topics we talk about, and I'm having trouble figuring out how to do that. I'm also, not very experienced in terms of broadcasting, so that's kind of an issue as well. But I feel like we'll get there. We're in our 11th episode, and it's gone a lot farther than I think any of us thought it would. You guys have any things that you'd like us to be doing in the next year? More the live stuff, man. Let's get together and eat.
I think we should be doing the live in the restaurant feeds.
Yeah.
Or it doesn't even have to be a feed. We can actually do a podcast out of there.
Right. And I think something we should do. We should have like a rule, like when two of us are gathered or something, like 2 or 3 or something like that, where it doesn't, because sometimes trying to manage all 4 of us getting together can be nearly impossible.
Very true.
So like I just think, hey, if most of us are there or whatnot, just run with it,
Yeah,
I
as long
think,
as it's not like if it's 2 people, that's fine. If there's a third person that's never been there before, as long as they're not some weirdo or some racist or bigot or something like that, I don't.
You kind of looked my direction. Like, what are you saying?
Well, I'm just because I'm responding to what you said.
Okay.
Right. It's not that you're a bigot.
I mean,
No, you're the weirdo.
yeah, thanks.
Wow.
Our top ceiling for weirdness is probably you and I, Chuck.
Man, it's like we're at Chuck's place, and all of a sudden you feel like he's just getting hammered.
I know. I need some more of this.
I like those ideas though. Doing more stuff at restaurants. We have a few friends that I'm sure would be willing to accommodate us, right? James, you have any thoughts going forward towards 2017?
No, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I've enjoyed, the episodes that we've done. As far as Foodie Call, I think it's pretty much exactly what I had thought it was going to be. Just a bunch of guys getting together, just rapping about food. And the live stuff sounds great, though. I would definitely get into that a lot more. I think those are a lot of fun. Even if it's just a couple of us or 3 of us or whatever, you can always refer back to that particular live feed with Foodie Call, right? We have the 4 of us together talking about something, and you can always just cut to that particular clip or something.
Yeah, some of our best moments have been really off the cuff. When we went to go eat dog meat, that was very emotional for a lot of people, or just kind of weird for me. But then when you produced the taco, because it was a Tuesday, you two, I think that was like...
I was going to say, I think it was only emotional for you, if I'm perfectly honest.
Yeah, it was alienating and strange for me. But anyway, you can always refer back to that video. I've also made it available on YouTube, right? So let's do more of that. Maybe not dog, though. Just going to say.
Mayo salmon.
Dude, that was highlights of 2016. I knew that was going to come out.
That's low lights.
All right. That's the perfect segue. Let's transition into, we started in April, and so I wasn't, keeping my finger on the pulse of food and social media in Seoul before that point. But let's start with the lowlights here. There's been a lot of stuff that's happened on social media, a lot of restaurants that don't live up to expectation. What are some lowlights that you can think of in terms of 2016? And then we'll finish off on a high note, I hope. For me, some people just kind of being really antagonistic on social media was a very big lowlight for me, because at the end of the day, food, I think I speak for all of us when I say that food should be bringing people together. And if you're coloring people's experience of food through just rhetoric or some sort of hate speech, why do that? Nobody likes that done to them, and that's probably been the biggest low light for me.
I mean, it's happened quite a bit, though. That's for sure.
Right.
That's kind of how expat life is, right?
Or if it hasn't happened quite as much, maybe it's just happened more as of late, maybe, which is why it's sort of at the forefront. But there have been, a lot of instances, I would say, over the past couple months or stuff like that. So maybe that's why it's sort of right at the forefront.
Is it just me, or does it seem like it's always kind of the same players involved? Because I guess, there's a few thousand people in the biggest food Facebook group,
And
Restaurant Buzz,
there's
right?
probably about
there's
100 or so active members.
Yeah, right. Less, like maybe 3% are active, right? And of those 3%, it's always kind of the same people that, stir up trouble. So, what?
No, I just think it's funny because we probably have like that side of the room is probably relatively active,
Yeah, that's true. These two guys are much more active than we are.
Yeah, I'm not saying that in a bad way, but you guys are part of that top 2% or whatever.
I mean, okay, so there's a group of it's about 10,000 members, and if you figure there's about 100 active, then sure, then there are moments where we have been more active. Thomas less so as of late than prior, and the same for me. Really, I don't really post as much as I used to, but I try to stay out of the snarkiness,
The drama.
right? It's a lot of fun to read, if I'm perfectly honest.
Yeah, actually,
It is
I've come
hilarious to
to
read.
the conclusion that it's actually more fun to read than to participate.
Oh yeah, that's why the other 2,700, 3,000 members, they just kind of read, right?
Right.
But we get to comment threads that are over like 60 long,
Sure.
and it feels like at some point you just saturated, right? And at what point, it's not like people are sitting back here and humoring someone who's being very hateful. They're calling BS. They're like, hey, you're only interested in yourself, or that didn't need to be said, or you're not really advancing the discussion. But that doesn't seem to matter. Doesn't go anywhere.
And I also think, like, recently, the last, I guess, 3 months, I guess, the whole, I guess, Shake Shack and Halal guys, and there's a lot of hatred towards both of them for the lines. Why are people standing in line for this mediocre food that doesn't meet our expectations? And there's been a lot of posts towards that. But if you take the food for what it is, it's not terrible food, I mean, by any means.
It's the context.
It's the context of, do I really want to sit there and wait 2 hours in line to get this food? And for me, no. But there's a lot of hatred towards these companies, which I don't understand why.
Because the lines are formed by the people in the line. It's not like the company is going out there paying people, or not just giving people food in a timely manner, right?
But, I mean, if you're waiting in line for 2 hours, I think you end up developing a higher expectation of the food to justify that you spent 2 hours.
But I feel like a lot of the people that waited in line for 2-3 hours weren't disappointed with their experience for having waited. I feel like there's been a lot more there's been a lot more what do you want to call it?
Like a backlash?
Yeah, backlash, exactly. From people sitting back watching the people wait in line.
Yes.
And those are the people like, I can't believe you waited in line 2-3
Right.
hours. I would never do that. Well, that's why you're not there.
Right.
It's like, and at the end of the day, you still haven't tried their burgers.
Yes.
So really, what do you have to comment on?
Right.
If they want to stand in line, let them stand in line.
If you look at the constituency of people standing in line, it's they're not. I feel like it's disproportionately not that many like foreigners. Foreigners are all the people talking about it,
Right.
But they're not the ones actually standing in
No,
line.
it's all the locals.
Yeah. So, I guess what are you complaining about? The eyesore, right? It's not your time. There was one thing I stood in line for, In-N-Out Burger. I had no problems with that, no complaints. But 2016 was a year of a lot of lines. We saw something interesting happen. Was the spotlight? It shines so brightly and so intensely on certain businesses in certain months that these lines kind of formed and happened, and then it fed into the atmosphere of social media. It also brought up a lot of amazing places that I feel like without RBS and maybe without Foodie Call, just saying, would not have done so well, or would have maybe not survived, right? And it also kind of showed flaws in their processes. Like some people had great experiences, some people had really inconsistent food that didn't come out in a timely manner, things like that. So I think that was a double-edged thing here, where these businesses, like some of our favorites, just like we just had Create, right? Cookies.
Mix and Malt is another one.
Yeah, Mix and Malt. It was a huge year for Mix and Malt.
Yes.
Right.
So much so that they've essentially become a meme on RBS.
Right.
Right.
And there is some backlash towards them for God knows what reason.
Yeah. It's gotten to the point where they can, their scrutiny on them has become so intense that they cannot get away with even one a slightly, just decent dish. Everything has to be amazing.
Right. Well, and I think that's another thing too. It's like when you set those, when it's not like you set those expectations so high, but it's when those expectations are set that high for you, that if anything deviates from that, then you feel like, if this were a place that were hardly ever talked about and someone went there and had an average meal, no one would ever hear about it, and it would just fly under the radar. But since it's like 99 people have said such good things about it and you had the one mediocre experience, you feel compelled to go out and say, hey, I had a mediocre experience here. I don't know what the hell you guys are talking about. And then, of course, that sparks the whole firestorm, and it's just like a lot of that is just unnecessary.
2016 is the year of the hype.
It's just a lot of unnecessary silliness. I mean, as far as food goes, I still feel like Korea is at its infancy as far as like the development of food, and for people to come from, let's just say, if you want to call it more sophisticated food cultures and just bash on Korea. Like the one thing that I can't really stand is just like the Korea hating. It's like you come to a foreign country, it provides your livelihood, and you're going to sit there and you're going to sit there and bash on it for little things like food. Oh, okay, so Korea, the food here is not as good as the food that you had at home. So what? Think about where it was a while ago when you couldn't even have that at all. It's like, you're starting to get more and more options. Give it some time.
And in the meantime, you can have some amazing Korean food at the same time. So.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of that is sort of spilled over into, I think the most dramatic example is with Michelin coming to Korea.
Oh, God.
Right? This was Michelin's first year here. And all you hear from the expat circles is almost none of it's positive. And it's just like, I don't feel that's really warranted either. Granted, there's probably a little bit of shadiness going on. Sure. But let's just say when Michelin first went to Japan, whenever it first went there, I'm sure they didn't get every single restaurant that they could have possibly had. They've had the benefit of being in the guide for so many years and having things added to it slowly to where now everyone's like, oh, it's
flushed out.
And it's a very well-respected sort of system. But I'm just like, what was it like the very first year they went there? I can't imagine it was a whole lot different. I'm sure there was a little bit of underhanded dealings there, right? Because how do you pick what first to put in the guide? And then over the years,
the whole thing with the underhanded business dealings with Michelin, it is not only with Korea that there is underhanded or just shady. I mean, it happens in Europe, it happens in America, so it's not just Korea. So I don't know why people are complaining about that aspect of it.
But nobody wants to recognize that. They just want to be like, oh, it came to Korea and look at this. Hey, what do you know? It was put together in a joint venture with Sheila, and hey, what do you know? Lion get 3 stars. It's like,
I don't know how it is in the other countries as well, but then don't you think in Korea it was very poorly done? And at least from what I kind of read and kind of saw, it's like I don't think any of the 3-star restaurants were actual 3-star restaurants, or there would even be in I don't know. I just felt
they don't hold a candle up to their international.
Or I mean, it doesn't have to even be international. I just don't think they're even like I think those restaurants aren't even at a caliber that Koreans would be proud of. Like I think that's the least you'd want. I would say.
I think one of them is, the other one isn't. Right? There are only 2 that made 3 stars.
Yeah, right.
And one of them that made 3 stars it's not even Asia's top 50 type of restaurant. It didn't even make that particular list. So for that one restaurant to make it into that list, and I've been there, and it's not anything special. Right? Actually, I mean, I've been to both, but one of them really I would never go back to again. The other one, I have no problem eating it.
But no problem eating at is very different from giving it like 2 stars is okay. Giving it 1 star, but giving it 3 stars is like you're saying
it's world class.
Like you got to come to this country to eat this food. And I just don't think, and I think like you said, there's a lot of good things and there's a lot of bad things about food in Korea. But I think, because for me, I kind of fluctuate both ways, right? And I feel those things as well because I'm very critical because I have a restaurant, so I'm like looking at the ingredients. I'm like, it's not quite, like we don't have those ingredients that we need or different things like that. I feel the pains, but also I do see things getting better. And I do talk to people who tell me the good and the bad. And I am excited for, the way that things are growing and kind of being in that mix. But then it kind of makes me feel sad to a degree when I hear when I hear about restaurants getting stars that just, even if it's not world class, I would hope it's like, oh, this represents Korean food well, or to that degree. maybe it's not as refined, or they're not using some crazy techniques or whatever, but you're like, man, this is kind of cool. This is proud, at least for Koreans. And I think that's where I think I personally have an issue. I think, yeah, there could be the corruption. They could be like this, first time doing it, so it's a little bit like not as perfect as everybody wants it to be. But regardless of that, I think I would want restaurants in there that people would be like, man, this is kind of cool. I want to check out these restaurants. And I think that's what it deviated from. And I think that's where the biggest schism, or at least for me personally, when I saw the list and I kind of went through the stuff, I was like, I just don't know if I want to go to most of these restaurants because of the fact that you just felt like it wasn't really true to Korea. I don't know.
I will say that I was surprised to see 2 3-star restaurants in the guide. I didn't expect to see any.
Yeah.
I expected most of them to be 1 star and maybe a couple of 2 stars.
Right. And I think if they did that, they would have gotten a lot more respect, and then it would have kind of built the road for hopefully, because like I said, I don't know how it was in Japan, but even 1-star restaurants I went to in Japan, I thought, man, some of them, they're not fancy by any means, they're just doing what they do, but they're doing it with a certain philosophy and passion. But I don't necessarily think a lot of the restaurants on the Korea list are operating necessarily that way.
I would be really interested to see how many of the, let's say, the original 1-star or 2-star restaurants from the very first year that guide came out,
right,
still have their stars.
Right.
I'm sure there would be some, but I would imagine a lot don't.
But I would say that that's true of as in like maintaining just that same star or elevating or going down. I think that fluctuates a lot actually on the Michelin guide.
Because actually, in New York, there's Restaurant Daniel, which is owned by Daniel Blue, world-class French chef. And his restaurant, which has always been a 4-star New York Times restaurant in the city and one of the leading restaurants in the city, actually got downgraded from 3 stars to 2 stars. And when I see something like that, and I just can't imagine that there are restaurants here in Korea that match that caliber of restaurant. And so I have some suspicions about
Shady business dealings that we're talking about.
Pretty much.
So I wanted to ask this question. I want everyone to pass judgment. I'm going to abstain simply because I haven't even looked at the list. But the fact that Michelin is here, it came this year, and with respect to the list that has been provided for everyone, is this a positive thing that they're now here? Is this a good jumping off point from which that Seoul could not emulate like Tokyo or in Japan, but go its own route to rise to international prominence, in our own culinary food scene? Is it a positive thing?
It's a great thing.
It's a great thing, says Thomas.
So, I mean, just the fact that Michelin would even come to Korea basically says a lot about where Korea has advanced in the last 30, 40 years. And not just as, basically as a society. And with society comes food. I mean, so.
But I think where Korea has come has a lot to do with I think Korea is becoming more of a destination. It's a place there's a reason why Coldplay never came here, but they're coming. Their first concert is 2017.
And Journey's coming as well for the first time.
Exactly. So I think there's a lot of things cultural, but then for me, Michelin coming. I don't know. I mean, I think it's good, but I don't think it's good right now. I think it could get better.
Well, it has to start at some point.
Right. So I think that's kind of what you guys are saying, where it is a starting point. Don't be too quick to say it's going to be. It might be crap now, but it's not going to be crap forever. Hopefully.
And hopefully, it can only get better.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean that's kind of
my disappointment with this year's selections was that there really is no traditional Korean restaurant that got investigated, I guess.
Right.
And I would like to see some of these places that have been open for the past 50, 60, 70 years. I would like to see those places get, at least reviewed or investigated at least.
Right.
And but I think a lot of the restaurants that got put up in the list this time, they're almost like foo-foo restaurants that are trying to...
agree.
Yeah, James looks like he has something to say here. He's been holding back.
Not really. I think Michelin coming here did a couple of things. One, it sort of gives validation, to the food scene, since there's a lot of people that, sort of live and die by the Michelin guide. But I think a lot of the restaurants that you mentioned, Thomas, many of them made like the Bib Gourmand list, right? And honestly, I think that's actually a really good jumping off point to start at, you know, because you have a lot of the $30 and under type of meals there that are actually really good, you know, Korean style food. So.
All right, well then that has been the Michelin Star Guide. I'm going to move us forward because a lot of the stuff, the lowlights, people just don't want to revisit again, and we've kind of generally covered them in this past 15 or so minutes. But the highlights, and 3 come to mind for me. I'm just going to lay them out here, and we'll get to them, you know, each in due time. But first, one of the biggest ones is pop-ups. Pop-ups not new in 2016, but in 2016, they really garnered a lot of attention, and they produced a lot of excellent things. I mean, James's pop-up was like 6 months long, right?
Something like that.
I hope it comes back around again soon. There was Chef D, which eventually gave rise to El Pino.
Exactly. And
that has been one of the biggest restaurants talked about this year.
Actually, it's one of probably the most popular restaurant at this point, I would say.
At recording time, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So there's been that as well. I mean, our good friend Jay had his roast beef pop-up, right? And that was amazing as well. And then there's, you know, despite how you might feel about long lines and such, but foreign food proliferation, right? That's been a huge thing this year. We'll talk about that. And also, lastly, rhetoric. There's a lot of people saying negative things, but there's also a lot of people fighting back against that. And I believe if you're at least talking about it and you're encouraging discussion, then we're going to go somewhere, you know. And we are here on Foodie Call. And what we did with the Sriracha Sisters on the last episode are all ways to increase that rhetoric and kind of bring attention to the food scene and all these other issues that are involved with it. Any other highlights that come to mind or anything else you want to dive deeper into within the 3 that I've just laid down, guys?
I would say just kind of going along with what you're saying is I think the standard of, you know, like we can always criticize that the standard isn't where we want it. And I think that may be true, but then I think the standard has risen, definitely, you know? So as in, you know, whether we're talking about big, you know, conglomerate franchise chains coming to Korea or just, you know, small restaurants popping up, whether they're like little Vietnamese restaurants or Mexican restaurants or whatnot. Like, there's a lot of pho places I went this year, you know, like
there's a lot of pho places everybody went to this year.
But you know, like some of the best pho like that I had even before this year was all stuff where people were like, "Oh, this is so good," and I'd go and I'd be like, I could tell this broth was not made in house. It was from a bag. It was shipped here, and then they're like, "How do you know?" And then I'm like, "Just wait." And I was like, I'm like, "Look, they're gonna bring the bag soon," and they literally like brought the bag to refill the soup, and so. For me, just the fact that people are caring enough, you know, there are people who are trying to make better, you know, better pho, you know, or whatever that looks like. That standard has risen, you know, like once, I think standards are kind of like that, where it's like once you try it, it's hard to go back to certain things as well. So, you know, I feel like people who are willing to, you know, push even American style barbecue, right? Whether we're talking about Linus, Manimal, or Sweet Oak, you know, they're pushing the bar. They're saying, hey. You know, don't go to places that don't care about like not doing food the right way.
And let's recognize that these places that are pushing the bar, the standard, they're all taking a huge risk because they're deviating far from what's acceptable. And it is just difficult to do financially to acquire these ingredients or to do these time-consuming techniques to prepare the food in this way, right? So that takes a lot of, I guess, a lot of courage and a lot of belief, faith in what you're doing as well, right? And that's to all of our benefit, of course.
We've seen a lot of that this year. Like, we've seen a lot of Vietnamese places pop up. I feel like sort of like banh mi's have gotten more attention than the pho. Sure. Because there have always been pho places here. Granted, not all of them are good, but this year it just seemed like every other week it was like a banh mi place, banh mi place, banh mi place. And then, of course, they always have the pho, too. And we also had a lot of barbecue places open up this year that they just weren't very successful at it, I would imagine. I can think of a bunch that opened up. I can't think of a bunch that really lasted or a bunch that are talked about as being any good.
Yeah, like just within this neighborhood that we're in, up Gyeongridan and around the corner towards the Itaewon, there's the main ones that most people know about. You know, there's Linus and there's Manimal. And then there's the other ones that are almost never talked about in terms of social media. I think like Loco is the name of it. I can't even remember. And like the other one is
Rusty's.
Locos.
Kinders around the corner, right near Corianos, right? I've tried that place out as well, and I
There's
wasn't
another
too
big
impressed.
one in Etoin that I don't even remember the name.
The one that's on the far end, past Hamilton.
That's the one I'm saying. I don't even remember the name.
But a bunch of those, I put them in the poser category personally. Like as in, I think they're like, hey, this is hot. Let's
They're
jump on,
bandwagon restaurants.
And I've had, I've had people tell me they're like, hey, I went here because there was a lot of social media and a lot of buzz about it, and they were like, that's all it was. It was social media and buzz, and especially because a lot of these restaurants are targeting Korean people, natives that
haven't had international experience.
Yeah.
maybe.
So and they're just gonna but then Koreans are the ones that told me how bad it was compared to the places that we mentioned, where they go and they're like, I thought this was gonna be the same thing or something similar, but it wasn't. And I think that's how it has been for a lot of places that, I mean, even for us, we do burrito bowls, and most recently there are 2-3 places in this neighborhood that started doing burrito bowls.
No, seriously.
Yeah, it's like not even funny, but if you look at their pictures, you're like, okay, they just poured some canned corn in there, like literally just dripped it directly from the can, and it's not even, it doesn't pass the eye test for me, So I mean, if it does, then I kind of want to check it out, just see how they're doing, see if it tastes right, but I'm not even going to check them out,
Don't support these restaurants, people, the ones that lower people's standards, unless they're charging a proportionate amount for that lessened state of quality, right? Then that's fine. If they're not charging anywhere near that price, then you can't compare. But I know for me, like we're in Cali Kitchen. I can't even remember the last time I had a burger here because I've been eating burrito bowls almost like nonstop. And I really, really enjoy it here, right? It's gotten to the point where, I know what the burger tastes like, but it's like going to Panda Express and not getting orange chicken for me. You have to. So,
or for you, it's like going to a sushi place and not getting salmon with a bunch of mayonnaise on it, right?
Because we all know sushi.
I like how
mayo.
I pay his restaurant a compliment, and he's just gonna like throw it back in my face.
Hey, I appreciate the compliment.
All right, so foreign food, definitely getting up there, which I'm glad to see. Hopefully that'll rise in 2017 as well, and we'll see. The restaurants that are people just kind of jumping on the bandwagon, opening up very similar restaurants. I like to see that go by the wayside. I like to see, trends kind of go the way that trends should go. I'm just gonna say that Street Churros doesn't have the same crazy line that actually obstructs traffic anymore that it used to have. Now it has business worthy of a corner churro stand. Moving on to a slightly different tangent here. Halal guys, got to try it a bunch of times. Thank you very much, James, for that.
I think it's a great thing. Those are like 2 huge chains that have actually made it sort of out their way to Korea. Not like like your fast casual diners.
It's
restaurants.
It's a different thing than when Taco Bell came, for sure.
Or when like Bennigan's or TGI Fridays or stuff like that came. Those are really big food conglomerates that just plunk down their casual restaurants here. But these are like, they started very small. They grew really big over there, and now they're starting their international expansion. I think it's good to see like Shake Shack and Halal Guys here.
I haven't tried Halal Guys ever, and I, other than here, and I've never tried Shake Shack either here or in America because it's not in the West Coast. People are saying, it doesn't stack up.
In terms of Shake Shack, I think it's very, very close to the ones in New York that I've eaten at. Not identical, but very close.
You gotta compensate for regional differences in terms of ingredients.
Pricing is almost identical if you take into if you take into account the exchange rate. So
it's good to know.
I think it's a great thing that they're here. I mean, it's only going to further the food scene here. Whether even if it is fast food, I mean, it doesn't matter, but just their presence here, I think, will attract even other companies to come here as well. So,
right.
Hopefully, I doubt it very seriously, but hopefully, even In-N-Out, they should look at the Shake Shack's, success and basically say, maybe we should go. So, but they won't.
In-N-Out won't.
No, they won't.
Are there still lines at Shake Shack?
Very little.
Go, right.
Okay, like
very little.
I could get
maybe 20 people at the most.
Okay, I could get a meal within like an hour being an out.
Oh yeah, sure.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Oh God, yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Like I've been there with 30 people in front of us, and it took us literally 10 minutes to get in, 5 minutes to order, and we were done with the whole meal in 40.
All right, that's good to know. Good to know. All right, so we feel positive about those things. Hopefully, that'll bring more international chains, the things that we kind of know and love. For me, also, that makes me think that 2016 has been the year in which I kind of like made a return to not eating Korean food, because I always like been doing that since I came here, but I started really appreciating it again. And I think that for foreigners, it's easy to take that for granted. Sure. Oh, that'll always be there. Because yes, it will always be there, but that doesn't mean that you can't appreciate it when you're searching for all these other foods and you're keeping your finger on the RBS pulse of what's trendy and like, oh, I gotta try this banmei place, or I'm gonna go line up for this, right? But there's so many other great options. Absolutely. Whether you're into like, oh, I just want a huge slab of meat, you can get that. Or whether you're a vegan, you can do that as well. And for me, I've really gotten to appreciate that a lot more this year. And I noticed that my life might, whenever I have a hard time in Korea due to whatever might be visa issues, it generally is, or like something Korea related, that I enjoy Korean food a lot more, because I'm like, oh yeah, you know what? This kind of like, it's the reset button for me. And that's something that people should remember. You know, we talk a lot about foreign food, but there's so much great Korean stuff out there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right.
And there's so many great hole-in-the-wall restaurants that... You know,
everybody has one.
Exactly. And if you search out these restaurants, you know, there are some real treasures and some real gems hidden. And I have a list of my back pocket restaurants that I don't tell anyone about. It's for me and me only. So
that's cute.
I'm sure you have yours as well.
Everybody does. Right?
Everybody does.
And we should, because this is where we live. This is home, right? Yeah. Okay. Unless there's anything else to add, I wanted to ask you guys about your favorites of 2016. For me, I really liked Mori Donuts. Man, that place in Myeongdong, but it's closed now. And so now my favorite donut is, what's the name of that place, James? I can't even remember, because I didn't actually go there, because James brought me a donut from there. It's a cronut, not a donut.
Seoul Pastry.
Over in Hongdae. That place was absolutely amazing. And I had donuts for days, literally from there.
So do you feel personally responsible for Mori Donuts closing? Because I feel like if it was my favorite donut place and I'm a donut lover and I'm like, dude, I should have went there more. Like what?
No,
like,
I feel like it was a bad decision to open up a donut shop that small in Myeongdong. Like there's no way you can drive in enough traffic to, and especially in that particular location. It's just not a very good location.
It has a grip of
I was
people.
gonna
So
say,
I don't know.
about the location, but man, if it should succeed anywhere, I feel like it should be Myeongdong.
No, it just was not like, I don't know. It wasn't in your face enough. It was like on the outskirts of it.
You're wearing a donut beanie, you know. I think if there were people like you who are willing to go there, you know,
do you know anybody else like me that feels that way about donuts?
I don't know.
No, you don't. Unless you're like maybe you do back home, but I'm the biggest donut fanatic I know, except for maybe my friend Jessica. Yeah, so that was kind of a disappointment. Let's see, things I really like this year. Create Cookies has been amazing.
So I mean, for me, credit to James. Root is probably one of my favorite places.
Did they start this year?
They didn't start this year.
Oh, really?
But I think this is the year that most people started eating there.
Root is amazing.
Root is fantastic.
Yeah.
And it's good for whatever kind of like nutrition that you're trying to get in. So a lot of these places, like I'm not gonna go to a donut place if I'm not having gluten, right? But I will go to Root pretty much anytime, and I like that a lot. Also customization, they're not afraid to customize for you, so I like that too.
Right. That's that. You know, there's a lot of things that Korea is not easy for, and customization is one of them. And I only really noticed that because people would come in, and if, you know, we customize something for them, they'll be like, "Wow, you'll do that for me?" Like I'm like, "Yeah,
little
like
guy?"
Yeah, like it's just kind of funny because people have kind of weird responses where they're like, "Oh, I'm surprised that you're willing to do that," you know?
Of things that have opened this year, I would say like El Pino has been a good surprise for me. I never went to any of his pop-ups, but all my friends who have been to his pop-ups, you know, to be honest to God, the truth is that they've all had mixed reviews from his pop-ups. And for me, I've gone to El Pino, I think like probably about half a dozen times now, and I haven't had a bad dish yet.
The amazing thing is he's been flooded with customers.
Yes.
Like selling out more often than not, I would say.
Yes.
And to be able to keep that consistency going.
And it's just basically him in the kitchen.
Yeah. That is commendable.
Right.
Right. So that deserves recognition. Congratulations, Chef D, from all of us. Yeah. James?
I can't really think of a favorite place that I, honestly, I think places that have opened that have been good. I think Appia has been good.
What kind of places? I've never heard that.
It's new American cuisine.
Yeah.
And I agree, it's a great restaurant.
Where's it at?
Right on the top of the hill.
So
Near
it's,
Corianos and...
it's sort of around the other corner, going the other way, but it's in those back alleys. So
Okay,
it's sort of
so
hard to
Moksakyang.
find. No. It's sort of where Gilbert is.
Yeah.
Then in those back alleys. But yeah, I think they do great food over there.
Yeah.
I don't really hear much about them anymore, which is sort of strange, but
I think they're at a price point where it's, especially for the expat community, it's not going to be like an everyday restaurant for them. Because every time I've eaten there, my bill has been over 100 just for the food. And then you add in the, if you're ordering wine and not, it's easily a $200 meal. So
But I don't think you're a very good gauge for how, like, if you told me you just pay $100 there, I'd be like, that sounds really cheap. I bet I could eat for under 20. I'm sure most people are thinking that. That's
Okay.
what I'm saying.
let's put it this way. If you order 3 dishes there, a starter, a main course of some type of meat, and then let's say you order like a salad or, maybe even a pasta, your bill will be $100 right there.
Okay.
I think this year has been a banner year as far as like the rise of, let's just say, the expansion of the whole Hongdae area, right? If you look at what's gone on in Yeonnam-dong, like Yeonnam-dong,
Absolutely.
like before it used to just be sort of like that Hongdae area. Right?
Well, it was
And
kind of
now-
a construction yard because of the train tracks. They turned into a park, right? It really
Right.
became a park this year.
But now, like, Yeonnam-dong is just blown up. Like, all the new places, I think that area is much more interesting as far as new food going up than Itaewon.
And that's a great place too if you want to go on a date and you just kind of want to take a walk and drop by like tiny shops. There's a lot of kind of like Mekju Chango places that sell craft beer. You just pull them out of the fridge and you can sit alongside the tracks or along the park right in between the shops. It's been a great place for that as well, actually. Yeah, that whole area. That's a good point, James. I want to recognize that 2016 has been like a year of ambition for a lot of people. A lot of people stepped up to pursue things that they weren't so sure in, and they had the I guess the business acumen to pivot or just to try things. And I hope that continues towards 2017. Is there anything else that you guys would like to see going forward?
I'd kind of just like to see a lot more of like kind of continuing what was started in 2016, So I would like to see more people trying pop-ups. I would like to see kind of new things tried. I feel like people are emboldened after 2016 in the sense that they're like, hey, like all those things that we used to talk about that we don't have, let's just make it happen,
I want to see more of people, like individuals, going out and just doing things themselves, like hitting up a Facebook group and, hey, I bake bread, custom bread. If you want that, hit me up. I know there's a guy that does sausages, right? But I would like to see more of that. If somebody made donuts, that'd be amazing, right?
I like how you're like donuts.
It's very
somebody
self-serving.
make donuts.
Yeah. I'd like to see your pop up.
If anybody's out there that makes donuts, please make donuts.
Holler. I'd like to see your pop up, James, become it's a restaurant. And I know that you're thinking about several different locations, but I'd like it to be nearby. I know that doesn't matter to you what I like because I eat there like once a month. And Thomas's long-awaited pop-up, of course, those are things I would like to see in 2017. Other than that, I totally agree with Chuck. We're on a good path. As long as people still feel free and emboldened and open to try those things, we're going to be going places in 2017. Anything else?
I'd actually like to see in 2017. I'd actually like to see a wider variety of foreign foods come into Korea, or people open up or try with pop-ups or whatnot. But there are certain categories of food that are still missing. One is like American Southern food, which is
Right.
pretty much missing. Cajun Creole, that's definitely missing. You know what I would actually love to see is a 24-hour diner open up.
Oh, that would be amazing.
24-hour diner, the way it is in the States.
But the 24-hour diners like largely came up around the idea of truckers driving through the night, and
Right.
Korea just doesn't have that.
But you know what? I would even kill for like IHOP or Denny's to come
yeah,
in.
people are always drunk though, so they'll do all right, I think.
But it's got to be at like the IHOP Denny's price point.
Yes.
Yeah, it can't be some absurd price point, right?
It can't be like $20 for a pancake.
Yeah.
Man, I'll tell you, when I was at Denny's in the 80s here,
Oh, they were here before.
there was a
right?
Denny's in
Yeah.
Itaewon here, and I remember. But think about it, this was back in the 80s when a Grand Slam breakfast was probably $3.99 in the U.S. It was probably $15 here then.
Oh,
Right, so that's why Denny's never
That's
lasted.
ridiculous.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. It was so much. It was so expensive back then.
Also, back then it was also much harder to get foreign food products in.
Right.
So now it's a little bit easier. So the price differences are there, but it's not as much as you would expect.
As much as there is good foreign food in Korea, there isn't a lot of great foreign food late night, right? I think that's one of
oh,
those
yeah, you have to
things.
settle for garbage late night.
Right. Everything closes at 10, 11. So
I mean,
There's
'cause,
almost none except for Brooklyn Burger.
right, but then that's kind of one of the things that people talk about Korea. They're like, Korea, you can get things late at night, you can get things delivered at any time. Like, those are the things that people talk about.
Yes, Korean
But-
food.
Yeah, but it doesn't apply to.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I'm just saying.
Except for maybe like Halal Guy stays open until 3 or 4 in the morning on the weekends.
Yes.
Right.
Right.
Brooklyn is open 24 hours. Right. But yeah, aside from that, there's almost nothing.
That would be nice to see. It is a huge risk, but I believe a place will pop up sooner or later, right? If there's enough demand for it. And I'm
It
sure
has
there
to.
is, right? The foreign answer to Haejanguk and Kimbap Changguk.
there you go.
Yeah.
Greasy food.
Yeah. So as we wrap up this episode, and thank you so much for listening in this far, I would like to, kind of put this out there. Social media is a huge part of everything nowadays, especially the food scene, whether you like it or not. But be forthcoming in calling out hate speech wherever you hear it and just nonsense, because that place or that stuff really has no place in just food. Food is created by everyone for everyone else to enjoy it. It's supposed to bring people together, and it shouldn't be as polarizing as we have seen it be. So, be part of the good rhetoric. Try to contribute good reviews. Don't get overly personal and things like that, and frame appropriately. Your expectations are your own. Maybe they've been shaped by social media, but take everything with a grain of salt, and don't go out there for blood, I guess.
I mean, I don't even mind the bad reviews. Just be constructive.
Yeah, yeah. So basically, make sure to be contributing in a positive way. We've seen the food scene grow to a place where it's the highest state of quality it's probably ever been in the entire time that I've lived here in Korea, and we should have the rhetoric to match it. Yeah. Other than that, we're gonna wrap up today's episode for Foodie Call.
James?
Thomas.
Chuck.
I am GP. Thank you so much for listening to us. We'll be back again next year. So happy New Year. And if you have any topics, make sure to hit us up on Facebook and throw us a like while you're there.
이번역은 사당역입니다. 내리시는 건 왼쪽입니다. 잠시 뒤나 신도림 방면으로 가시는 분께서는 이번역에서 2호선으로 발전해 있습니다. This stop is 사당. The doors are on your left. You can transfer to the green line. Line number 2.
So, GP, since you
So,
love donuts so much,
I don't know if the camera can see this, but
yeah,
this
since you
is
love
a
donuts so
Christmas
much,
present.
I brought you a little Imperial donut break.
Why don't you put that up to the camera so people can see what that is?
All right.
And this is blown my mind. I'm wondering how it combines beer and donuts. I like beer. I love donuts. This is either going to be extremely amazing or it's going to be extremely
Off-putting.
disappointing. There's almost no.
Oh, that's the
middle
beer
ground
donut one?
here.
Actually, can I?
You changed your mind.
I'm curious now.
I asked him if he wanted some. He's like, no.
I totally forgot. It's just got donut in the name.
And we are, of course, having Create cookies from our lovely friend Sungwon over at Create, just down the street, right around the corner, 2 corners from Cali Kitchen, where we always record. Well, almost always. Maybe she'll let us record at her place sometime.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
should do that.
I mean-
we should crash that.
I think you've probably paid a month's worth of her rent by now, right, James? Just purely on your quantity alone.
I don't eat that many cookies.
Yeah, but you buy a lot.
I don't buy that many cookies. I did the month while I wasn't eating them.
Yeah.
How many times have you snuck cookie dough in your mouth? So you can't even say it because.
That's happened on more than one occasion.
Oh my goodness.
But it's not really sneaking cookie dough at that point. It's more like wiping the beaters clean.
You just like to lick it clean, huh?
Something like that, yeah.
I mean, who wouldn't? Who could blame him?
It's butter and sugar.
Yeah.
Have another cookie.
Okay.
So
I'm going to describe
yes.
the smell of this. It's black and effervescent.
Oh, there's way too much.
It
in
looks
that.
almost like black licorice, like liquefied black licorice. There's no head.
There you go.
There's no head. That's never good.
That's no good.
It just smells like it smells like a stout.
So there's the other one that's the Imperial Biscotti Stout, and then this one would be kind of like the sweeter version, like as in if you're comparing the two.
Okay.
The Imperial Biscotti Scout, we're selling it for 29,900, 29,000, and this one we're selling for 34. But this is like the cheapest it's being sold in Korea. Even Woody Ship are selling more
And
expensive.
what is the quantity of that? What's the volume of that?
650 mil, which is 1 pint and 6 ounces, as we learned and talked about earlier.
Smells just like a donut.
Cheers, y'all. Happy holidays.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy holidays.
Whoa.
I took it out of the fridge early because this actually tastes better when it's not super cold.
I can imagine. Yeah, I imagine a lot of the flavors die out the colder it gets. Like you just are tasting the kind of sharpness. It's sweet, not quite candy-like, not quite pepperminty.
You expected pepperminty?
Seriously.
No, like on the way there, but not quite. I'm not expecting it that, because that just sounds disgusting in a beer. But it's very, very good.
Where's the donut?
But donut is not what comes to mind,
Yeah.
right? Glaze, donut break. Maybe it might go well with the donut. We don't have donuts here, but we
Unless
have.
they mean that when you take a donut break, you have coffee with your donut. I mean, I'm like,
Yeah. It is
I
a
get
very,
more-
very
I get more
good beer.
coffee like bitterness than donut.
I'm getting more coffee than.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying.
It is a coffee beer, but
okay.
I think they actually like went through like a grip of donuts to like pound in like some of the sweetness or like flavor into it or something. But because it's very sweet, it has that like sweet note to it.
This is sweet.
Chuck, do you know where Evil Twin is bottled? Because that's been really popular in a lot of kind of more kitschy convenience stores that sell craft beers around here in Itaewon.
I
That
believe
particular
Colorado,
brewery.
South Carolina, I think. South Carolina,
It is really great with Create cookies.
right?
Yeah.
See, I think it paired well. So right when I saw the cookies, I was like, it's called donut.
Yeah.
It's like, to me, that feels like this goes good with the cookie the same way coffee would go well with the cookie.
Exactly.
Because I don't taste any sweetness in this at all.
I tasted.
But
But
then,
once again, that's because I don't really know what
Yeah,
I'm
you're
talking
not.
about. So,
You're not
What do
a
you think
super
the
beer guy,
ABV
neither
on
am I,
this is?
but I drink more beer than you.
well, I think someone had said something like 7.5%, or was it more than that?
yeah, it's actually 11 and a half.
Oh,
11
whoa.
and a half?
But it drinks super smooth.
Yeah.
You wouldn't like notice it from just like how easy it goes down.
It's actually not as sweet as I thought it was going to be.
I feel like if you've been having the cookie, it's very unsweet, actually. Because even for me right now, it's not as sweet as I remember. But I think it's also because
Because of the sugar.
we've had like cookie in our mouth.
Yeah, actually, the first sip I had before the cookie, and it was much sweeter. And as I had the cookie, it kind of balanced itself out, which I like.
Because it's actually pretty sweet. It's just that I think
Like, honestly, this isn't bad.
It's a nice beer.
Nice.
They actually just
I
started
wouldn't
selling Kilkenny's not too long ago at convenience stores. And that's one of the ones I've been looking forward to for a long time.
What?
Kilkenny's, you know that it's an Irish cream. It's really good. But it used to be impossible to find, and now it's like really, really cheap.
So it's not a beer. It's Irish cream.
Kilkenny.
It's an Irish cream.
I thought
beer.
you literally said Kilkenny. I was like, that's not a nice name for a beer.
Kilkenny.
I know.
Kilkenny.
Yeah,
it's one
yeah.
word.
But
So it's the holidays. Are you guys eating any differently? Because I'm eating a lot, which I am super stoked about. Because when January comes, second week of January, I'm starting to tighten up nutrition again.
Yep.
But does the holidays really affect what you're eating at all?
It affects the amount that I've been eating. I haven't really been discriminating what I eat anymore.
I don't know. Do you really feel like holidays? Like, I don't think I eat necessarily more. I just think I
don't think my diet has changed.
I think maybe I do eat a little bit more sometimes because there's more like food, like as in there's an abundance. Like, you know, you see like, oh, there's a lot of food today, but then I think I just usually eat as much as I eat. You know.
I agree with that.
I have really, really bad portion control.
So
Well, that's not true. I have good portion control. I choose not to exercise it. You know,
That's the same as not having good portion control.
I mean, it's like I know what the speed limit is. There's a difference between knowing what the speed limit is and caring what the speed limit is, right?
I know it's
So
worse that you
I know. That's what I'm saying. It's worse than.
Yeah, it is. It's bad. It's bad.
So are you bragging about how bad you are?
No.
Because if I was Santa and I was listening to you, I'd be like, okay, now I'm not going to give you your toys, like because you told.
That's like double the
Yeah,
thing.
double. Yeah, like you basically fessed up. So he's like, okay, no toys for you, buddy.
So what kind of toys did you get, Chuck?
I didn't get any toys. I got zero. I think I got a candle. You know, that's it. I don't think I did anything family related.
You have family here
I
in
do.
Korea?
But I don't even. I consider myself not to have family in Korea.
Okay. They're just kind of distant.
No, as in like, they don't contact me. I don't contact them. It's like
So they are super distant.
no, they live in like Gubanpo, which is
Oh.
not distance wise. It's distant like, yeah, like as in yeah. I don't know. I have issues with family.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's the same thing for me. I mean, I have relatives here, but I don't call them. They don't call me. So.
Yeah, but I have parents here, and it's almost the same way.
Well, that was the same way for me in the U.S. as well. I mean,
That's what I'm saying. It's a very I love you, but I don't like you type of relationship.
But I don't know. At least for me, at least when I'm in the States, it does revolve a little bit more around friends and family. You know, even if it's you're not seeing maybe all your family, but it's still friends and family. But here it's just like, okay, my Christmas is gonna be go to church in the morning, and then I'm gonna go play in a poker tournament. Like that's literally.
That sounds like a good day to me.
I know,
Sounds
but
fine
I
to me,
think
man.
not from the Christmas angle for me. It's like, yeah, it just sounds like a good day, but not necessarily from like a Christmas, like what I think a good Christmas would be.
I've been getting back into video games a lot. I used to really, really like video games. And I'm happy to be doing that again.
what kind of video games?
PC and 3DS and PS Vita. It's a lot of like portable and PC games.
I have no idea what any of that meant.
You understood PC.
Sure.
He's like, that's politically correct. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
The common in the Venn diagram that is GP interests and James interests, there's food and there's fitness and maybe sometimes whiskey and then not much else apparently.
Well, if you're going into like video games, yeah.
I don't know. It just feels good to be back into something that I used to really enjoy. I don't really know why I got away from it. I just like stories, you know? And that's kind of like the podcast. I am trying to think about new ways to do the podcast. Maybe I can do something where it's much less prep and much more talk and quicker. But I guess I'll be looking for
But when you say
ideas from
you
you
like
guys.
you like stories, and then video games, I don't know what.
A lot of role-playing games have really good stories. So I play a lot of that.
So it's not like that alternate reality type of.
Oh, like MMO RPGs, like World of Warcraft and things like that.
No, there was that one video game like last year or a few years ago where like people spend more time playing that game and living out their
right.
Oh,
alternate.
Pokemon Go.
No. Just like they have their own avatar there, and it's like living in a virtual world.
Right.
They would rather spend time in that virtual world than the real world. And
Nah,
like
that's-
you know,
that-
you'd heard of like babies dying because their parents had.
Oh yeah,
playing this game
that's
for, like,
World of
72.
Warcraft, right?
But it wasn't that. It was like it's literally like playing like a SimCity game where you're just this character in a world and you live in that world.
Yeah. I know what
you
you're
have
talking
your
about.
own friends there. You
Yeah.
have your own world
Second
there.
Life or something.
Yes, that's
Second
exactly
Life,
what it is.
right? Where like the only difference was that your character could fly essentially, and you actually had a job and things like that.
I mean, but it was basically just like life, except it wasn't life.
Yeah, that sounds not like I'm not gonna knock someone who enjoys that. That's fine. You know, if you're not hurting anyone and you're getting enjoyment out of your life and you're contributing to society through your job or whatever, and your children aren't dying.
No, I'm gonna knock them. It's a fake world, and you think it's more important than the real world. I'm gonna knock you for that. Okay, I know maybe you're Mr. Nice Guy. You're like, oh no, he's a gamer too. It's okay.
No,
as
that's
long
not
as-
the way I think. I think like
To me, that's not even a game.
Yeah,
Like, there's no
it's a
point
simulation.
to that game.
It's a simulation, right? But I just don't care enough. I don't want to feel that negativity towards someone because I don't care. You know.
No, but I think you should have an opinion about like that's a bad way to live your life if you're like not living your life. Like I think
You're living your second life, bro.
that's
It shouldn't overtake your first life, though.
No, your first life should come as a priority, right?
I mean a different thing is if you're talking about Westworld.
Westworld. I plowed through that series so hard. That was a great series. Can you chew any louder?
You didn't like it, right?
No, I liked Westworld.
Well, you liked it. Who didn't like it? Somebody didn't like it.
I haven't even seen it.
Oh, well, get on it, man.
Come on, buddy.
Yeah.
I've seen the original movie
Yeah.
That was way back. Like that was like a 70s,
Yeah, like the
80s movie.
1400s or something.
with
right?
Yul Brenner.
I didn't even know that was a movie.
Yeah, it was a movie before it was. Yeah. Oh man, it was a good watch.
It's always weird because whenever something comes up, like some song came up the other day, and Thomas like, "That's not the original." Like, as in, like he's always like, "Okay, let me tell you about how this originated, because there's something more, more previous to that." It's like, no, let me tell you about your grandpa because I saw him do that before you did. I'm like, I don't need to know that, but thanks, anyways.
But you should. You should though.
Yeah, thanks, grandpa.
Like,
All right.
Whenever there's something right
I don't
now,
have anything to say to that, though.
You guys ready to start the podcast? I'm gonna reset the cameras. We're gonna start this thing. You guys ready?
Yeah.
All right.
we weren't doing the podcast.
No, we're eating cookies and drinking beer and talking about our holidays. It's just
Wait, isn't that the sum of what we do?